AI which will learn this and pass it on to generations, right? As an entrepreneur, innovator, and incubator, what advice would you give her? Or what advice would you give to a startup today if they want to start a company around that? What would you say?
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. Really pleasure, first of all, to be talking to you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Very eminent people and great audience.
Yeah.
So I think fundamentally, right, I think when you look at AI, and I think Sunilaji mentioned it can be a force for good.
Right.
And we also know there could be some downside, but I'm an optimist.
Yes.
Right? And so I tend to focus on the force for good.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what we must realize is, so you go back and look at eras, right? So the printing press, the steam engine, the automobile, we are at that
internal
point.
Combustion engine. Yeah.
We are at that point now.
Okay.
Right? This could be, while Sunila ji said, Alan Turing started his work about 60 years ago, but I think we have reached a point today, right, where this could be really, really game changing. Right?
Wow.
So that's one. Now, if you think about it as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, particularly in the Indian context, the way I look at it is there are large models which big companies, we know which companies we are talking about, are building.
Sure.
But I think there are plenty of other issues to solve. Right?
Right.
So you think about issues where, for example, there are high friction tasks which need to be done. There are information discontinuities or information blockages, etc.
Right. Gaps.
So the way I look at it is, first identify what problem you want to solve. Right?
Okay.
And if you look around us, there are plenty of problems waiting to be solved.
Absolutely.
And just to take a few examples from the business world, right? So, for example, how can I serve my customers better? Okay. How can I ensure I can accelerate, I can qualify leads which come into a business, as an example. Right?
Sure.
Or how can I reduce the time for prototyping? Right? How, for example, if
time
you take
time
to market, or if you take, for example, in areas like drug discovery, right? Companies spend millions and billions of dollars to come up with a drug.
Sure.
Essentially, it's about patterns, testing, etc. So, can I figure out how to accelerate that process? Right?
Right.
So, my advice to anyone who wants to go down this journey, one is the big companies will do what they're doing.
Right.
But I think there are plenty of opportunities to focus on issues which are very endemic to India.
Indian context.
Indian context.
Right.
And solve problems related to, for example, healthcare. Solve problems related to public service delivery and so on.
And so on and so forth. Right.
So that is one. Now, the important thing to remember is it's not about creating a fancy slide deck, pitch deck, etc. But look at what problem you're solving and what success will look like if you solve that problem. What impact are you looking to create? Right. So, for example, look at, in a commercial context, how do you, basically two things, right? How do you increase revenue? How do you lower costs? Right. And how can you do more with less?
Okay.
So if you focus on that,
efficiency as a factor.
Right. So I think there are two parts, right? You're a prof, I'm a prof. So one of the things I think which we talk about is you have to do the right things and you have to do things right.
Right.
Right. So I think in both
sides of the equation,
I think AI can make a difference in your becoming more efficient and also becoming more effective.
Okay.
So focus on
the problem. Right.
Right.
So and define your problem very clearly.
Correct. Right. And people ask me, why is there such a high mortality rate among startups? And I think fundamentally it is about identifying the right problem, and then going after it.
Whole hog. So you mentioned 2-3 points here. I'll just pick you up on that. So you compared it to electricity, you compared it to ICE engine, you compared it to the printing press, the Gettysburg at that time. So is it something what, just to draw on the corporate lingo, what Andy Grove called that we're looking at an inflection point? Do you think AI is the next inflection point, or what Clayton used to call disruptive innovation? Is it going to disrupt a lot of industries? Do you see that?
Yes. I was this guy called Sulaiman Mustafa, right, who works for a company which competes with
with Sunilaji's company.
But I think he's a pioneer and whatever. So I just finished at the fag end of that book. And clearly, I think it can be game-changing and transformative in pretty much every aspect of life. Right? Not just, I mean, we talked about healthcare and whatever, but I think pretty much in every area. So, for example, think about aging is going to become a significant issue for us.
Indian population.
We pride ourselves that we have a young population.
Right. But not for long.
But not for long.
Not for long.
Right?
True.
That demographic dividend.
The way China is struggling today.
Right? So I think it can be, as I said, a force for good.
Right.
And provided we put in the right kind of guardrails across and address some of the issues which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Okay.
The bias issue, data sets and privacy and so on. Right. I think it'll change our lives.
Okay. Before I come to, because that's again a large company context, Shirajji, but I want to ask you another question. When we read about investments in AI and large companies going after AI, we're not even talking about millions of dollars anymore. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. We're talking about $1 trillion valuations. We're talking about $1 trillion orders. We're talking about equity stakes that run into trillions of dollars, right? As spread over the next 5, 7, 10 years. When I, as a young startup, student at an IIM Ahmedabad or an IIT or wherever for that matter, right? Lucknow University for that matter, Hyderabad, Osmania, wherever. When I think about doing an AI venture startup, I suddenly feel that, look, am I at a disadvantage? Is it like now, has the game really gone only to the big people like Shirajji and Sunilaji, or somebody like myself who has hardly any money can still think of an idea, define a problem very specifically, and think about creating a business model around it and solve that problem profitably and build a company on AI? Do you think still that scale is available, or we would need support for that?
No, I think first of all, I think what I think India will be really good at, my thesis is, I think for us to now try and build another large language model. Right. I think that bus has passed.
Right.
And the kind of investments which are required to be made,
okay.
I don't think we should.
As an entrepreneur, we should. So are you saying we should not even try for that?
No, we should. But I don't think it's something which...
It's an entrepreneurial game.
It's not an entrepreneur's game.
Okay.
It has to
so
be
the government can do it in a structured manner.
way.
Right.
Okay. Government, academia.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think there's the big opportunity to me, and I obviously meet a lot of startups and all of that, I think is in vertical models.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, we talked about healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give you several examples of companies which I know. For example, in the, let's say, the drug
discovery,
so not drug discovery.
Okay.
Even when you're filing for a drug,
patent
for a patent, for a FDA regulation, etc., etc. There's a lot of work which has to be done, right? Which can very easily be done by
AI.
A well-trained model where you can draw inferences.
So contextual vertical model is the
similarly
way to work.
Similarly in fintech,
right?
As an example,
yeah,
right. And I can give you examples in procurement,
right?
Where
supply chain management,
management in agri,
right?
So there are a lot of value chains where I think you can build vertical models, okay, where you can two parts. There are some things where there are routine tasks which you're doing, which can be done better by AI. So you focus on judgment, you focus on reasoning, and that part. Okay. Right. So I think there's plenty of opportunity. So if
even as an
I wish, I was telling somebody else the other day, I wish I was about 20 years younger, so I could do another venture, right?
But you're still not old. You're still young.
No, I know. See, what I've learned as an entrepreneur who built 2 ventures in India.
And sold it to IBM and NSE.
Yeah, so it takes about 10 to 12 years for you to build something.
That scale, right? I can imagine.
And, no regrets, whatever.
Sure.
But I think, going back to the theme of what the question you asked, I think focused on building vertical solutions.
And contextual knowledge. Okay.
Right. For example, our legal system is clogged. We know that we have a humongous backlog of cases. Right? If you file a case now,
God forbid.
Right? So focus on those kinds of issues which you can solve.
Okay, perfect. I think you've created absolutely the perfect pitch. I'm sure Shirajji couldn't have got a better pitch than that, right? Absolutely. So he talked about agriculture, his vertical knowledge, right? I just want to add and you have a huge background, right, from ITC to leading Cargill for a decade in this country, right? The largest players in the world. Just tell me this. So he talked about vertical knowledge. So how do you think about AI at Cargill, that was fine. If you were still at Cargill, or if you want to go back, or if they were invited you back, for a CEO training session, and said, tell me what I can do at Cargill vis-a-vis that, and vis-a-vis AI. Second question is, MSR mentioned about, almost contextual knowledge, right? So something that we call technologically RAG and VAG, verified augmented reality, and that agentic AI. How would you think about, so if you were leading Cargill or ITC or any of those companies today, how would you create that contextual pool and that vertical depth of knowledge and utilize AI there to make a difference, not just to the company, obviously firstly to the company, as how would you run the company, but also to the economy as well. And second question is, what internal changes would you be faced and forced to implement in the company today because of AI? How would you think as a leader, as the CEO, as the chairman, what changes would you implement today because AI has come up?
So, I'll take a step back.
Sure.
And when I entered the industry or agriculture, there were not too many professionals. So I used to define it that Indian agriculture was actually a tripartite agreement between God, government, and the grower. Right. And the villain was and the villain was the trader. Oh. And that was reflected in our movies, where you had the trader exploiting the farmer, and enough movies of that time. And so when we came in, we were the industry. So the trader was replaced by industry, and industry had to then bring about the improvements in how these three elements worked. And most of it was about de-risking, because the biggest risk taker actually is the farmer.
Is the farmer, yeah.
He's exposed to all the elements, he's exposed to government policies. So a lot of company efforts were really about de-risking, and because the base was risky, so any company trading in commodities, supplying products, was really about what price you were buying it. Maybe the prices fall after that, or they go up, and that was the whole challenge of managing these companies. Right. That how do you buy low and sell high, right, and get it right all the time?
Yeah. So replace the trader and become a larger trader.
Now the difference is that the trader, small guy, industry had an image, stakeholders, a global image. So you had to be looking to protect. You had to be looking good, right, also. Right. So, but that was not only about looking good. It was about how are you going to make all your stakeholders successful, because you can't, and that's where technology came in. 25, 30 years ago, we used to wonder that, in India, which had at that time, 65% of the population dependent on agriculture, less than 2 acres of holding, how will we ever get to address the problems of Indian farmers? Right. But today with technology, and that AI has come in, it has essentially come in to de-risk agriculture. And the challenge will be not really in creating technology. It will be about carrying that technology. And that is where the companies are focused.
Exactly.
On. So right?
What would Cargill do today on that?
So we actually did this in 2004, okay, which is said that, okay, we are going to be procuring directly from the farmers. So we set up procurement centers, which was then, obviously technology wasn't as advanced. Right. It was disseminating information to the farmers, being present where providing farmers with inputs where the farmers were. Right. And that worked on another logic. If you notice, that's the trend, that a farmer sells everything in retail, sells everything in wholesale, right, and buys everything in retail. Yeah. So that's the worst scenario equation to be in, right? Yeah. So we had to change that, which is when large companies could buy in wholesale and give it to the farmer there at that price, at his location. Now, this was all manual at that time. Where technology has come in and where companies are now adept. Now, in terms of the data, just the basic farm level data is today where AI is coming in. Then it is about soil condition. It is about predictive sort of information on pests, weather, relating the satellite imagery to the condition on the ground, and creating that ecosystem on the ground to actually disseminate that information to the farmer in a language and the right context. Because, right, you can't be having presentations, as he said, it has to be how to do it rather than
Implement it, right.
just telling them what to do it. And I think a lot of companies are devoting their time and attention in doing that because that is where their source comes from. And then obviously they've built technologies to carry whatever they convert those produce to, whether it is food products or whether it is now from agriculture, they're producing a lot of, fuels and everything. That is where the technology piece is coming in.
Right. So what do you see, the second part of the question that I asked, what do you see is the internal dynamics changing within the company, for example, any company, we could call it any company for that matter. How would those internal dynamics change? What, if you were to hold a review meeting today of the top management team or the strategy retreat today, what would you tell your top management team that, look, now is the age of AI, what is it that we do? And how do we do it differently?
So what is where this thing is coming in is a few areas where it is your customer understanding is much better, thanks to. So the resources that were deployed for that, the marketing pitches are, today you have the opportunity of using technology to create content yourself, right? I mean, the whole role of agencies somewhere is the creativity piece is coming under. Then it is about, predictive. I mean, in commodity or food companies, this whole supply and demand numbers prediction. The jobs of analysts, those are getting, I won't say getting challenged, they're getting more sophisticated.
Okay.
The tools available to them. So I see AI coming into these organizations as tools which improve efficiency, which get more certainty and reduces that element of human error or human judgment or biases. Of course, AI is also accused of getting in biases. But the focus really is on how are people getting better in delivering whatever they were delivering by leveraging the technologies coming in.
So can you give me an example of a particular bias that you faced earlier, which you think the AI will be able to handle effectively? Because bias is a problem that, we all talk about with AI. And we've seen those examples, right? You get a response which is critical of somebody only because of the data that AI has been fed, right? Typical stereotypes around gender, around race, around color, around religion. And there are multiple examples. In fact, I was noticing that IBM actually came out with a perspective, a benchmarking tool to check for AI biases. Right? So when you said that, I was very fascinated to ask you that question. That give me an example which you think would have crept in earlier, but now with AI, maybe we can equalize that because it's not a person deciding, or it's not a person responding.
So this would typically happen in trading situations, right?
Okay.
Where you would say that, okay, when the crop comes in, the prices will go down, and if you stock more, this whole trading concept was about buying at harvest and storing it.
Right.
Now, in the recent, because the trading can be physical, can be on the exchanges, this whole concept of